Hi class, this is Mrs. Albritton. I have an Algebra 1 Unit 3 quiz study guide for you today. We're going to have our quiz tomorrow. It'll be on factoring using GCF, factoring trinomials where a equals 1, and there will be a new one where we find the difference of squares, and I'll show you that one, but that will be extra credit. And once you look at the notes today, you may be able to try that one. Now, we won't have factoring trinomials where a is greater than 1 on the quiz tomorrow. So let's start with number 1. What is the GCF of the expression below that could be used to rewrite the polynomial in factored form? So we have 15x to the 5th minus 12x squared plus 30x cubed. And just remember that once you're finding the GCF, if you got factors with numbers and variables, you got to look for both greatest common factors. So let's list the factors of the numbers first. When I list the factors of 15, I've got 1 times 15, 3 times 5. Factors of 12, give me 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. And the factors of 30, we have 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 5 times 6. So if you notice, we do have a 1 in common, we have a 3 in common, and it looks like the greatest common factor is going to be a 3 for the numbers. Now we've got to look at the variables also. And in this case, 15 has an x to the 5th power. And it looks like this when we write it out the long way. X squared can be written like this. And x cubed is x times x times x. And what do all three of these sets of variables have in common? They have 2 x's, which is written as x squared. So the greatest common factor for this polynomial expression is going to be 3 and x squared. So 3x squared. Number 2, what is a binomial factor of the polynomial n squared plus n minus 20? Notice that this asks what is a binomial factor. So you only need one. You need just one. However, in order to find one, you got to factor the entire thing most of the time. So before we start factoring, let's go ahead and list our A, B, and C so that we can follow the steps. In this case, A is 1, B is 1, and C is negative 20. So when we look at the steps, remember step 1, you list the factors of C. So to start out, we'll list the factors of negative 20. Negative 20. Well, we've got negative 1 times 20. I could also have 1 times negative 20. I've got negative 2 times 10. We could also reverse that to positive 2 times negative 10. And we've got negative 4 times 5. Or we could do 4 times negative 5. Step 2. We find a pair that equals the b value. Negative 1 plus 20, that only gives us 19. 1 plus negative 20 gives us negative 19. Negative 2 and 10 gives us 8. 2 plus negative 10 gives negative 8. Now when we get to negative 4 plus 5, that would give us a 1 because 4 plus negative 5 will give us a negative 1. So this is the pair that is going to work to split this polynomial into its binomial factors. So step 3 is to write the factors. the binomial factors. So we end up with, remember you split up the n squared, which would be n times n. And then we're going to use this pair, the -4 and the +5. So since the problem asks what is a binomial factor, you're going to give them either n minus 4 or n plus 5. You just look through the list and see which one they're asking for. So based on what you have in your multiple choice list, you'll choose one of those. Next, number 3. What is the factor form of the polynomial T squared minus 8t plus 15? All right, so all we have to do here is just factor it. They want the entire factor. So let's list our A, which is 1, B is -8, and C is 15. And so you got to use your steps. Remember, step 1, you're going to list the factors of your C value, which is 15. So we got 1 times 15, 3 times 5. Step 2, you need to find the factor pair. So one of these pairs that adds up to the B value. And in this case, the B value is -8. However, when I add 1 and 15, I get 16. When I add 3 and 5, I get +8. I need -8. So how can I fix that? Well, sometimes we forget that when we're listing our pairs, our factor pairs, -1 times -15 is also 15. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. And if we add those, we'll get -16. However, -3 times -5, which is also +15, so it fits as a pair of factors, gives us the -8 that we're looking for. So this is the pair that we're going to use to write our binomial factors. So to factor t squared minus 8t plus 15, we'll end up with the t breaks into t times t, and we're going to use the -3 and the -5. And there's our answer. Number 4, what is the binomial factor of the polynomial x squared plus 8x plus 12? And again, you only need 1 to get your answer. However, you've got to factor out the entire thing and then choose whichever one is in our multiple choice list. Okay, so let's identify our A, which is 1, our B, which is 8, and our C, which is 12. So again, we got to follow the steps. Step 1, list the factors of the C value. That's 12. We've got 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Step 2, choose the pair that adds up to your B value, which is 8. This gives us 13. Here's 8. That's 7. So this is the pair we want. So it looks like our answer is going to be x plus 2 times x plus 6. All right.